It was March of 1775. The Virginia legislature was meeting to determine whether they were going to support the revolution against the British. George Washington was there. Thomas Jefferson was there. Several others that signed later the Declaration of Independence was there. They had a discussion that lasted for more than 2 hours. Pro and con, for and against. Should we support the revolution or should we be loyal subjects to the British? And it seemed divided about half and half. A young attorney stood up. He had already made a name as an orator, and he gave an extemporaneous speech. That means he had no notes. In fact, we would not know what he said. It was over 10 years before a man that was there sat down and put on paper what he remembered him saying. So the words that we have may not be exactly what he said, but he certainly caught the theme of what was trying to be said. The attorney's name was Patrick Henry. He was later to become the first governor of Virginia. And I give this to you because it deals with the willingness to deal with truth. He stood up and he addressed the President of the Assembly. And he said, "Mr. President, it is natural that men hold on to the illusion of hope. We are apt to shut our eyes against a painful truth and listen to the song of the siren until she turns us into beast. Is this the part that wise men should play, men that are engaged in a struggle for their freedom? Are we to be the kind of people that have eyes and yet choose not to see? The kind of people that have ears and yet choose not to hear what is before us? For my part, I want to know the truth. I want to know all of it. I want to know the worst of it so I can prepare for it. There is really no longer any hope. If we are to stay free, we must fight. I say again, if we are to stay free, we must fight. They tell us, sir, that we are weak. But when will we be any stronger? Next week? Or next year? Will we become stronger by sitting idly by in irresolution and inaction? Will we become stronger by lying supinely on our backs, clutching the elusive phantom of hope until our enemies have us bound hand and foot? Besides, sir, we are not weak if we use what God has made available for us. 3 million strong we are in a holy and just fight. We can put together an army that no one can defeat. And by the way, we will not fight our battles alone. There is a just God who controls the destinies of nations, and He will raise up friends to fight our battles for us. Anyway, the battle is not always to the strong. The battle goes to the valiant, to the active, and to the brave. There are no options left. The only retreat we have is in chains and submission. There is nothing left to do except to call on the God of hosts and those that will fight. People stand around and talk about it. Men cry, peace, peace, but there is no peace. The battle has already started. We have men in the field. Why do we stand here idle? Is life so dear, or peace so sweet, as to be bought at the price of chains and slavery? Forbid it, Almighty God. I know not what course others may take, but as for me, give me liberty, or give me death. It is said at that moment, there was not a sound that could be heard in the auditorium. It's what we call in modern vernacular a drop the mic moment. Patrick Henry walked off the stage and sat down, and there was not a sound for more than a minute. The next thing that happened, the president of the assembly called for a vote. And they voted overwhelmingly to support the revolution. It is one of the most famous speeches in history. And why I end this part of my talk with this is because he dealt with truth. We are apt to shut our eyes against a painful truth. And that's what I want to ask you. Do you shut your eyes against the painful truths of life? I hope and I pray that you are the kind of person who wants to know the whole truth, who wants to know the worst of it, and is willing to prepare for it. Because if you are not willing to deal with truth in your life, you will live your life in chains and slavery and submission. It is only by dealing with truth that you will have a life that you can be proud of. It is only by dealing with truth in your life that you really will ever come to know God. For God is the truth.